While we awaited results from the election on Sunday, I spoke with former Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs and now founder, Bolitac Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies, Professor Bola Akintarinwa, on the future of France, the EU, and France's relations with Nigeria. You're welcome to Diplomatic Channel.
It's a great pleasure to be here again.
Well, we're talking about the elections in France and how they affect everybody else and everything else. The results will be announced hopefully soon by the end of this interview. But during the campaigns, we saw a lot of mudslinging, between the two candidates. Going down memory lane, we learned that Marine Le Pen has had a history of, being argumentative, in many of her debates, and also digging up, dirt on her opponents and so on. She always came close, but never really, got the office and so on. Do you think that, her victory in the past was probably hampered by the way she approached the elections?
I wouldn't think so. You see, the French have a mania of voting. They have a sort of objectivity of purpose to the last second of voting, to the time of campaign, being stopped on the basis of law. That's Friday, midnight. If we go back the memory lane and we compare, for instance, the case of the socialist, you have François Mitterrand, and you have the communist leader, all right, who was adjudged to be the best professional politician. When they were campaigning, the last minute, someone raised one question, that if your great-grandfather during the war, I think they were referring to the war in Sadawa 1866, 1871, that your father didn't pay the required charge, the charge that all the French people, the Franco-Prussian War of 1870, 1871, they needed the commitment of everyone. So somebody drew the attention to say, your forefathers didn't pay this amount of money. Then if during the Second World War, your own father this time, when the war was so critical at a particular war front, your father ran away. If your forefather, your great-grandfather, your own father could do this, why do you think that you want to be the French, of the French people today? That no, you can never be a good, leader. Yes, a leader. You will disappoint, you will leave the French people when they are confronted with this type of problem.
Is that the case of Marine Le Pen?
No, I'm only giving the style, what the French people normally consider. On that basis, this communist, that was his name, I remember now, he, on that basis of his father's record, people distanced themselves. And yet, to the last minute, the opinion polls was generally in his favor. That was how eventually he lost to François Mitterrand. We are talking about the 1981 election. Now, by that time, the Front National, under Jean-Marie Le Pen, the father, they used to have averagely 1%, 3% of the voting. Okay. So, the French people, who were generally against, very suspicious about communism, now prefer the centrists, and then the Republicans It used to alternate between the socialists and the Republicans. But the far right, Le Pen, campaigning on the basis of the consideration that France's problems were generally as a result of foreigners, immigrants in France. Long, long time ago. It does not just start.
And that is what Marine Le Pen is also saying today.
Precisely. Mm-hmm. So, what happened was that by that time, the population of foreigners, the Maghrebin French, people from Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, all right? Mm-hmm. Even as a result of the 1962 war, Algeria, France, many Algerians left Algeria to come and live in France. There are many. Now, when you now campaign on the basis of who is original French and who is not, it creates problems. And at the end of the day, when it comes to what they call main d'oeuvre, you see all these menial jobs here and there, they are done by foreigners. Algerians are there, everybody, they are there. So when you look at it, you can't campaign and expect to win when you have a sizable percentage, important percentage of foreigners living there.
Welcome back to Diplomatic Channel. We've been discussing the French presidential elections and France's relations with the European Union. Do you think it's possible to win elections on a clean slate? You know, not to do things traditionally, not to dig up dirt on your opponents and to focus on the issues. Do you think it's possible to win elections that way?
In Europe, particularly in France, we can say yes. We can say yes. But you see, the beauty of the problem is that there is what people often refer to as esprit de corps. Esprit de corps. People who engage in politics in advanced countries, all right, they take politics professionally as a full-time, and they mutually support one another. So in this case, it is possible to have an election based on objectivity, clean slate. Mm-hmm. For instance, in France, there are two principles that underlie elections. We have the principle of desistement. Desistement. It is a principle by which when